hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. Even if you aren't a reggae fan, I can bet that you already know that Bob Marley and the Wailers is the most successful reggae group of all time. But coming in at close second, at least from a commercial point of view, is the phenomenal Black Uhuru, a vocal harmony group that was formed in the Waterhouse area of Kingston in 1972. It's had several lineup changes over the years, but the greatest is one which existed between 1978 and 1984. A lineup that consisted of Ducky Simpson, Puma Jones, and the subject of today's video in the spectacular Michael Rose. It's no exaggeration to say that after the passing of Bob Marley in 1981, Michael Rose had the most popular voice in roots reggae music. In fact, he's among the most incredible vocalists that the genre has ever seen, and is considered by many to be the originator of that singing technique called the Waterhouse style, even though there's been a 3-decade debate that credits fellow Waterhouse singer Don Carlos as that style's true pioneer, but that's a story for another day. Though Black Uhuru had been in existence for 5 years, it would be the addition of a teenage Michael Rose that would prove to be the catalyst which launched it into the stratosphere of global superstardom. He would channel his experiences growing up in the poor and tough Waterhouse neighborhood into his trademark ferocious vocal style and live performance antics that placed Black Uhuru on the same level of rock and roll royalty in those times, and saw a Jamaican act win a Grammy for the first time. But at the peak of the band's success, he would leave the group, retreat from music, and go on to become a farmer for several years, before returning to music as a solo artist. Let's take a look at the story of Michael Rose, one of reggae's greatest vocalists and the mighty voice of Black Uhuru. He was born on the 11th of July 1957 in the rugged western Kingston ghetto of Waterhouse. Though musical energy was simply exploding out of Jamaica in those times, young Michael's introduction to music began at home, as his older brothers were all music crazy guys that sang non-stop around the house. He was blessed with a superb singing voice and began to compete at talent contests around Kingston, and became a veteran of numerous stages before the age of 13. He was still a teenager when he left home to start plying his trade as a singer with bands that were playing on the very lucrative Northern Coast hotel circuit, where they entertained tourists and Jamaicans with deep pockets. Things were going pretty well for the lad, until unfortunately the hotel's management caught some members of his band smoking herb on the premises and fired the entire group. So the then 15-year-old Michael moved back disappointed to Kingston and his old neighborhood in Waterhouse. But a light in the dark would appear in the form of his childhood friend from Waterhouse in the then upcoming drummer and producer Sly Dunbar. It was Sly's encouragement and influence that would take Michael's career to the next level. He would record his first single titled Woman A Genial Fit-True for producer Newton Simmons, just before Sly introduced him to ace producer Winston Holness, aka Nine the Observer. The then 15-year-old Michael then models his singing style after that of Dennis Brown and had a wonderful voice. But despite recording great songs for Nine, like Clap the Barber and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, they all failed to ignite the charts. And young Michael was on the verge of giving up, but Sly continued to encourage him to keep writing songs and wait for opportunities. In that particular year, Sly, along with his partner in crime, Robbie Shakespeare, had formed Peter Tosh's backing band, World Sound and Power, and left soon after for a blistering American tour to promote the album Legalize It. Meanwhile, also in Waterhouse, singer Ducky Simpson, who was founder of a vocal harmony trio called Black Uhuru, he had just lost 2 of his groupmates in Don Carlos and Garth Dennis, and was now on the hunt for 2 singers to replace them. So when Sly returned from touring with Peter Tosh, he introduced Michael to legendary Waterhouse-based producer Prince Jammy. And as Jah would have it, Jammy knew about Ducky's need for singers and would link both guys, who would click immediately. Ducky would soon after recruit yet another Waterhouse singer named Aaron Nelson, and the second incarnation of Black Uhuru was born in 1976. They released Black Uhuru's first album, Love Crisis, that was produced by Jammy in 1977. But soon after, Aaron Nelson quit the group and would be replaced by an American master's degree holder and dancer named Sandra Puma Jones. Black Uhuru was complete again, and it was that same period that the Stepping Razor would fall out with Sly and Robbie, who soon after quit his band. The Rhythm Twins would from then on dedicate all their energy and attention to playing instrumentals and producing Black Uhuru's music. They would open their accounts with 1979's 6-track showcase album, a flawless sonic boom that introduced the world to the superb vocal performances of Michael Rose as he wailed and growled majestically on tracks like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and General Penitentiary, not taking anything away from the brilliant supporting harmonies of Ducky Simpson and Puma Jones, mind you. But it was Michael Rose's militant lyrics and powerful wailing singing technique, riding Sly and Robbie's sublime instrumentals, that set the reggae world ablaze. After playing a few shows in the US after the album's release, they would end 1979 on a high with a performance of a lifetime at that year's edition of the Reggae Song Splash. So led by Michael Rose, they tore it up on their sets and blew the audience away big time. Among the multitude of people in the crowds that day was Island Records boss Chris Blackwell, who on the strength of that performance signed them up to his label, and they would release their next album in the groundbreaking Since Amilia, a work of art and compilation that was the best album of 1980. But if Michael Rose had done incredible things up until then, he would literally blow the roof off reggae and indeed world music listeners away on the 1981 album Red, where he would put in what were some of the greatest vocal performances in music history on timeless tracks like Utterance, Youths of Eglinton, Carbine, and the ridiculously amazing Spongy Reggae, a track that broke into pop culture when it featured on an episode of the popular 1980s American TV program The Cosby Show. Black Uhuru went only reggae's biggest act, as Bob Marley had passed away around that time, but were rated on the same level as rock's biggest acts, playing on the biggest stages with acts like The Police and Kool and the Gang. In fact, Kool and the Gang got the inspiration for their hit track Let's Go Dancing Ooh La La after watching a performance of Black Uhuru in Germany. They were simply megastars, putting out hit after hit and touring the globe, performing in front of humongous screaming crowds. But beneath all the glittering lights and glamour, there was plenty of trouble brewing behind the scenes, and it would soon lead to Michael's exit from the trio. As frontman of the group and lead singer, he had powered them to immense superstardom, and as the story goes, many people around him, including family and friends, were in his ear all day and night, telling him how wonderful he was and how he didn't need Ducky or Puma to be a superstar. And over time, such words began to get to his head and would lead to numerous clashes with the tough, no-nonsense Ducky Simpson. So after the group recorded their album Anthem in 1983, they would embark on a staggering world tour to promote it, and as it was ending, Michael Rose quit Black Uhuru in 1984. The Anthem album was soon after bagged the first ever Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album in 1985. But despite that success and Chris Blackwell's attempts to reunite them, Michael Rose refused to budge, and according to Ducky, even refused to accept his own Grammy statuette. I did a video that told the full story behind the circumstances behind Michael leaving the group, and I've left a link to it in the description section below. So after leaving Black Uhuru, Michael immediately dropped off the radar, and despite being a city boy from Kingston, he moved to the countryside, bought 300 acres of farmland in the lovely Blue Mountains of Jamaica, where he established a thriving coffee farm that employs hundreds of workers till this day. However, Michael Rose didn't stay away for too long and returned to the international music scene in 1990 with his first solo album, Proud, and an album called Bonanza, and he also reunited with Sly and Robbie in 1993 and would with them record a slew of singles like Monkey Business and Bad Boys. And to crown his solo efforts, he would feature with a number of artists such as Shabba Ranks, with whom he did a remake of Black Uhuru's classic song Shine Eye Girl in 1995, as well as Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Nigerian dance techno artist Dr. Alban in 1997. The 1990s were favorable for Michael Rose as a solo artist, and by the time the 2000s would arrive, Island Records, then called Island Def Jam Records, was then led by US rapper Jay-Z, and the company would try to reunite Michael Rose and Ducky Simpson. But that effort would fall apart even before both men could get to record in the studio, even though they succeeded in going on tour for a while. And sadly, their relationship until today is nothing to write home about. The great Michael Rose has been amazingly consistent over the years and has released 35 albums since his exit from Black Uhuru, not to mention non-stop tours in the biggest reggae festivals around the globe every year. Neither his or Black Uhuru's career were ever the same after the split almost 40 years ago, but his incredible contributions to the culture will never die, and Michael Rose's exploits will for all time see him celebrated as a living legend and one of the greatest performers that we will ever see in the amazing history of reggae music. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.